Are we live?
All right. I think we are.
How you doing? Sounds like you've been having
Good.
some adventures,
Yeah. This dog of ours likes
right?
to go on little walks on its own,
Uh-huh.
and so we've got this yard.
Right?
I never know whether to call it a front yard or a backyard because it's in kind of the front of the house.
Okay.
There's just a drainage field, not drainage field, but a septic in the back,
Right?
and really the yard is the front in front of the front to the side of the house,
Okay.
um, and it's got a few easy exits for the dog, and so I've got those dealt with basically
Right.
chicken wire or yeah chicken wire,
Okay.
um, and uh, um, and the only thing I could get was like 4 foot high, and she didn't need 4 foot highs, or actually
Right.
no, I think it was 2 foot. Oh, so it was just right, 2 foot high.
Sounds about
Um,
right.
but I had to cut it in half to fit under the shrubs, so that because she'd sometimes go under the shrubs and through.
Crafty.
Um, yeah, and and then there's another spot where there's like 8 feet where I had to put another set of chicken wire up there. And so, the first time she got outside, we let her out into the backyard after I set this up. She like bolted to her usual spot. It's like, oh, I can't go anywhere. And then bolted the other way to the other fence. And oh, I can't go out here. I went to the bushes. I can't go out here. Oh no, I have to actually stay in the yard. And then she figured out that the perimeter of our yard is these like 7 foot high Argentinian grasses. I can't remember what they're actually called.
Nice.
And they I need to. Can you hear me?
I can. You sound a little bit echoey, but otherwise we can hear you.
Hold
Are you on the
on.
wrong mic? Oh yeah, you sound like a radio announcer now. Look at that.
There we go.
Big difference.
Yeah. Microphone.
Tall
So
grasses. Yeah.
tall grasses. Hold on. Let's
No worries.
let's put the earpods in so that
Oh, we got
AirPods.
full production
so-
going in here.
Okay. Now say something.
Something.
No, it's not.
Well,
I need to set the audio output to
StreamYard. Yeah.
your AirPods. Okay, now say something.
Something.
Perfect. Now I can
Perfect.
hear you. Okay. So yeah. So she's figured out that these grasses, they started out as like plantings that were, I guess 2 inches, 3 inches round. A tuft, a few tufts every like 2 or 3 feet, and the previous owners had it for about a year, and then we've had it now for 2 years. This house, and those little tufts have grown so that they're really like about 1.5 feet wide over that short period of time. We need to pare it down this time, but still, so it's a pretty thick amount of grass. But the dog has just figured out that if she has enough speed on her side, she can just kind of soar through this about 4 foot deep of grasses. And so that's the next thing we need to tackle. And so we actually had our the builder of the house, the architect of the house, come over, and he had some drawings of things that we want done to the house, some shelves that we
Right.
want to have built in, using kind of the same, I guess, design language or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
as the rest of the house, and as well as an extension on the garage and a few other things that we want to do. But another one of the things is the come up with a fence that makes sense for the house, for
Right.
the similar design.
Yeah, I can't imagine the chicken wire fits in with your neighbors, that kind of thing. Just a guess.
Yeah, no, it's because during
For me, like as a
I
farm
would-
boy, this is perfect, right? Like this is totally par for the course for me.
So I would if I were doing a chicken wire, I'd have it in the middle of the grasses, and so you wouldn't really see it. It would just be this barrier in the middle of the grasses. But starting in February, they trimmed the grasses down to nothing. So in February, like in next month, they trim all the grasses down to maybe an inch, 2 inches high out of the ground, and over the course of the next really 3 months, they grow to 8 feet, 7 feet tall or so.
Wow.
So that means for a good 3-4 months or so, this chicken wire is pretty exposed, and so we need to have a better solution. Turns out the architect is actually kind of suited to this task as well. Really? Having he was one of the core architects of the Monterey Bay Aquarium and the aquarium here in Seattle, and a whole bunch of national aquariums all around the US and around the world. And he's also done these enclosures for the small mammals that you often see at aquariums. So perfect. So we just need to find that solution. And
now, just a random thought: have you thought about feeding your dog so it doesn't want to leave your house?
Yes.
What's the dog doing? So, does it, like, my dog used to run away because it had a playmate down the road, kind of thing. So like we knew what was going on. But is your dog looking for anything?
She runs off, and I went out, so I can in fact, I got to turn off the lost mode on my dog's collar. I found Jade, disable lost mode.
No lost, yeah.
Let me take this off. So she has this on her.
Okay.
So this is a little GPS collar.
Yeah.
Yep. She has a GPS collar on there. And so I can turn on lost mode, and it updates the GPS more often. And start flashing this little light that you can't really see, so it's not really
nice. I'm quickly Googling this because this looks awesome to me. I'm always scared.
I think it's Tri-Fi.
I found it right away.
Yeah. And there's another one. There's like the Halo collar, I think, which is pushed by Cesar whatever. He's got some dog training program on.
I always think it's Cesar Chavez, but it's not. It's Cesar
Milan. Yeah, but not him.
It's because of that Simpsons episode where he gets the two confused.
But that collar is absolutely worthless. I mean, they charge a lot of money for it, and it doesn't work. You have to. The dog has to be outside and running flat out for like a mile before it sees, oh, he's outside of the house. It's just worthless. It's a worthless.
Sounds like not the use case you want.
Actually, this actually shows me where the dog is, and it's great.
Right. It works really well. That's awesome.
And it turned out he was just on the driveway next door to us, and just kind of sniffing around. Nothing.
Sniffing stuff. Yeah.
Didn't really. It's like, oh, you're here. Oh, great. Let's go for a walk. It's like, no, I got to get on a stream.
That is pretty cool though. The fact that you can I'm assuming it's GPS, so it's pretty fast in terms of updates.
Yeah. I mean, so normally it's updating every couple minutes.
That's pretty good.
And but then you turn on this lost mode, and updates every more often, 30 seconds or so.
Gotcha.
It's not perfect. Sometimes it thinks it's
GPS is a bit
home,
weird. And especially with like skies like ours. Sometimes the GPS can be a little bit odd.
Yeah, and it also it uses Bluetooth to sense when it's close enough to the base station where you do the charging.
Yeah.
And as long as you're really close, it doesn't have GPS turned. It leaves GPS turned off because that takes a lot of power.
Right.
And as soon as it has some distance from the base station, then GPS comes on.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you can probably like Bluetooth low energy or whatever it be.
Yeah.
Cheaper in terms of battery. That makes sense.
And
it's a smart design.
Yeah, and battery, that Halo thing had to be recharged every day. You had to take it off every day. But it was also the kind of collar that electrocutes the dog if it goes
shock
past
collar?
the fence.
From Cesar Milan?
Shock collar,
wow.
yeah.
I don't know. I thought the shot collars are frowned upon. I could be wrong. He's
But
pretty old school
this
in
one
some
is
of his
not.
teaching.
This one doesn't do that.
That's good.
But I tried with that shock collar. It has you test it and like, okay, start turning up the power on this thing. And I tried it on like the lowest setting on my finger. I was like, I tried it on Jade, and like I had to go way up to the top, and she didn't really notice.
Yeah, okay. I guess it depends on the fur. We don't have as much fur around our necks. And
yeah. I do at the moment, but
yeah, me too.
So,
listen, I'm glad to hear you found your dog. Also, that's a pretty good recommendation. I think for a lot of people, the fear of the dog, kind of maybe not running away, but at least being lost is a big deal, especially when you're hiking. Like we like to let our dog off leash on off leash trails, of course, but still we worry because we've had it once where it runs off and then gets confused, took the wrong fork in the path or whatever, and it's your heart sinks, and just having that I don't know, security is important.
Yeah, there's enough predators around here for dogs that we can't really. I mean, there are some people that do walk with their dog off leash. It's totally against the law on the island. But
I'd assume like here we have eagles, right? I'm assuming you've got eagles because eagles.
I mean, there are pretty much any day I can go out onto my deck and look up. There's 2 eagles to my right and another 2 bald eagles just on my left. So there's 4 within probably 100 yards of our
and I know people watching the stream are like, eagles won't take a dog, but like their wingspan's massive, at least Pacific Northwest, and their talons are like the size of my hand. It's really terrifying, and they do routinely steal dogs. They'll find like collars in their nests and stuff like that. Like it's
I mean, there's one of them is a extremely big bird, and he's got to be wingspan of, I don't know, 5-6 feet. I mean, it's a massive bird.
Yeah, the sheer power. I mean, like small dog has no chance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that would be a perfect meal.
I'm the same way. Like whenever it's like eagle country or whatever, whenever there's a lot around, dogs on leash for sure. Because it happens, you hear about it all the time. And I'd assume you also have coyotes would be the other one, or lynx?
Yeah, coyotes is the other big thing here. And they're pretty bold. They'll come right up to people and like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll get some food here.
Yeah.
But I remember when I used to work for OpenText, for the company that OpenText bought that I was with, called Capteris, and we were based in, where was the company based? I don't know where it was. I think it might have been, I was either Seattle or Tucson, Arizona, but often I'd go to Tucson, which is where the RightFacts product was based.
I remember RightFacts.
And you look at the newspaper, and every now and then you'd see articles about people riding their bikes with their dogs running after, but the dogs would be taken out by mountain lions.
Wow.
In the hills above, and like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
that'd be a rough way to go.
I'd every one of those be like, nope, that's not happening again. Wow, that is rough.
Yeah, but
I've always
anyway, I'm excited about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go.
I was gonna say, like, I've always wondered about those. It's not armor, but you know those harnesses you can get for dogs that they like wear other things for you. They carry their water and their food and stuff like that. You know, some layer between them and whatever's attacking them.
Yeah.
Some sort of like flak jacket for dogs. If you load it up with snacks, you know, then they get something that like, oh, this tastes good, and maybe they'll run off or something like that. But I've always wanted one of those for hiking because I assume like any extra layer is better protection than none.
So I we went to the local dog store just in the last week to ask about something similar, not so much for stuff on top, because you know, like when walking out in the rain or just after there's been a rain, you know, there's mud on the ground, and you know, this dog is her when she's like walking along, the bottom of her body is like 3-4 inches off the ground.
Yes, it's touching.
And so every step is like getting her undercarriage is like completely black by the time she comes home. So you know, we went in. Well, is there anything you can get that like covers that part?
Right.
and it turns out there's other parts down there where they need to pee, but so
interesting. It's funny how the bodies work.
How bodies work. I don't want to go into too much detail in case we get knocked.
Yeah, you can tell we're tech people, right?
Yeah.
What has GPS? Got it.
And but is there something that just covers that undercarriage so that we don't get dirty? And no, we don't.
The undercarriage.
We don't have that. But if you look on Amazon, there are these things that look kind of like body hazmat kind of suits for people, but they're actually for dogs.
No.
And they you can put them on. I mean, they look ridiculous.
Right.
But I mean, perhaps no more ridiculous than dogs wearing little booties, but
ours wears booties. Don't get me started. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so there are these things, and you just kind of peel them off. And
I would have thought they would have recommended one of those like rain jacket things, because I think it's not full torso, but it's at least partial.
It's just the straps that go underneath.
Oh, there's no actual. Okay,
at least the ones that they carried.
We definitely do have booties for the dog for similar reasons. It just steps in. There used to be needles in the park and stuff like that, so we want something that would keep the dog safe. But we do also outfit this dog with like a puffer jacket from Canada Pooch, which does have like under kind of protection a little bit. But our dog is also pretty low to the ground, and he'll get water all over. And it's just like coming back from the walk means like, I don't know, it feels like 15 minutes of just wiping down all of the rain, because it rains all the time. Obviously, the dog's gonna be soaked all the time. And it like I'm not gonna say glowing recommendation for Canada Pooch, but so far it seems to be the I want to say Montclair of like doggy. It's like kind of fashionista doggy stuff. Okay. You'll find it like in Nordstrom. Like it's a little bit frou-frou, but the dog likes the boots, hates the rain, so the boots are awesome for us. But
I love watching when a dog puts on the boots for the first time and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I love that, but
ours did it for like, I want to say 5 minutes, and then immediately once he was outside, he was fine. Other two dogs prior to this, definitely weren't. It took a while to get used to the boots. They did, but it wasn't the same. I think when they're younger, and especially because he didn't like the cold ground, so it felt like a benefit maybe. If you can sell it, if you can make the business case to the dog. if it has a need. But the Canada Pooch jackets are pretty good. It's mostly just the chest, so like a little bit further up where the belly button might be, and then but at least it helps that part not get wet, because it's crazy. It gets all in the fur, like you get black stuff everywhere. If there's any little bit of mud, it's all over their body.
Oh my god,
don't get me started on the legs. Oh my god, like the legs and the back. The face.
The other thing I'd like is like a little sleeve for like the ears.
Right.
Not for the mud, but because whenever she happens to come across, there's a few trails here where they also have horses, and if there's a horse that's been by and is done
left its mark,
she sniffs the poop, and then just goes like puts her ear like in it.
Of course. It's the same with cows, as far as I can tell, and possibly pigs, depending on the dog. But they really want to smell like something else,
and have it with them forever.
Bring it into your house. Dogs are awesome. We took ours to a farm once, and there were cows everywhere, and their favorite thing was just to run out and just roll around in the cow patties. And it takes so long to clean. It smells so bad. Like I don't mind the smell of manure too much, but it's different when it's like on your pet that's beside you all the whole time. It's disgusting.
Especially since after walks, if it's me and Tony going out, one of us is in the passenger seat and that person has Jade on her lap.
Great.
And it's like nobody wants to have a poop smelling dog.
No, absolutely not. We tried to put like a gate in the back of the car, so like the hatchback kind of area where the dogs would sit, but they just they don't like that. And of course, so you've taken dirt from outside and then you've put it into your car, let alone like a lap, which is pretty bad, but like you let them free roam around the back, it just gets filthy so quickly.
And then we had the dog in the front seat, and we opened up the back because we were trying to get Stella get her pants on so she could go to school, and the dog was 5 feet away from me, and she could see me and was looking at me, but was so panicked, she pooped all over the front seat.
Oh no!
Ah! Why do we have this dog?
Yeah, I mean, it's hours of enjoyment, right? You know,
Yes,
obviously,
yes.
yes. If there weren't bad parts, then the good parts wouldn't seem as good.
That's right. That's it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to spin this for you. It's hard
Yeah,
though.
I don't
In the
know.
moment when your dog's in something in your car, it's like, oh, gee,
Yeah.
it's rough.
Thankfully, we have one of these covers on for the passenger seat in case
Smart.
she's,
Right.
if we go somewhere muddy. I just happened to put it on that morning.
Perfect.
For I don't know why. I mean, it'd been off for a while. I thought, oh, that should really go back on, and I put it on, and that's the day she decided to poop on it.
There you go. Oh, she knew.
Yeah, like, oh, you put this there for me. Thanks.
So listen, you had a list of stuff you want to talk about. I'm looking at it here, and I've got many questions about a lot of this stuff. But I figured the easy one to roll into was there's one in here that says plans for the house. So we talked a little bit about the fences, but what else? What else are you doing here? You're putting in shelves.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of projects, and
this is like this old house with Matt.
But yeah, so of course the house is only 3 years old. I mean, it's brand new. It's
okay, yeah.
It's amazing, an amazing house. Super well efficient and beautiful. And there's one long wall in the living room where we have our TV. It's currently sitting on a media center table that we got from IKEA, I don't know, 5 years ago, and it's still there. So
that sounds like
we need to update that. So mount that onto or get a new TV, because the TV is the TV. I think we might have talked about this TV before, because it was the first thing I bought when I came back to the US from the Netherlands, and then I realized I needed furniture to watch TV, so I bought a footstool, and I just sat on a footstool for the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks watching this TV that was pretty big. But anyway, so we're gonna replace that TV with a new TV, put some shelves and a lower set of cabinets on the mounted onto the wall, kind of going back and forth between using the have a top of those cabinets be the same wood that's on the floors. So we've got this these floors that are Siberian larch. And so we have extra planks of that. So have that be the surface, or do kind of a poured concrete or a formed concrete top. And so that's one project. But then there's some other bookshelves on another part. There's we've got this plunge pool or spa, or kind of spa-like thing. It's got jets in it, so it's like an 8-foot square thing. And right next to that, but under the deck, is the equipment room. And so in order to get to it, you have to lift up this really, really heavy door, and it's on no hinges. It's just this door, and so if you drop it and your toes are in the way, those toes are gone.
This sounds
I mean, it's so heavy, and the edges are so sharp. So can you do something about that? Some sort of hydraulic thing.
Right. Yeah, that's where my brain went to as well. Something a little bit safer for the toes, right?
Yeah. He's found a very expensive solution to that. So
of course
we can find something else.
That's the architect's job, right? Is to find you the perfect solution,
right.
and then you can sort of.
We have hopefully an extension on top of the garage, which would be wonderful. That'll be the expensive part that we'll probably be putting off for a while. And then what else? There were lots of little things. But the shelves are probably the biggest. And then we've got this kind of entry hallway, and you walk along it for about 20-25 feet before you make the turn and see the rest of the house. And it would be nice to have a low set of shelves and which are also benches along that wall, so to make it a little bit more of a room rather than just this thing you walk through to get to the house.
Gotcha. Now I'm no expert, but this sounds like possibly weeks of work, if not more. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Does it take portions of your home out of commission? Like, is there
no,
some bargaining or anything like that goes along in terms of like needing to work at home as well as get work on the house?
Yeah, I think I mean most of the shelving is actually going to be I think like the boxes will be actually formed from aluminum,
Right.
and so which is in keeping with other things in the house, with some of these surfaces with the larch on top of it.
Right.
And so that they can build at their kind of machine shop kind of thing.
Oh, nice. And just sort of drop it in. Okay.
And then just stick it to the wall. A little bit more involved than just
just
glue. But yeah, they just stick it to the wall and should be good to go. So cool. I think it'll be a lot of work for them to do, but then on site might be a day or two.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, awesome. I assume that they had to build all this stuff
based on no knowledge.
Right. Right. But it's not like a kitchen reno or something like that.
No.
You can tell I'm not a homeowner. Like everything sounds super long and complicated to me.
Yeah.
No, are there any opportunities? Because I know you're really into like Home Assistant and IoT and stuff like that. Are there any opportunities to work that into the things you're talking about, or is that sort of like after the fact?
I mean, the house has already got. I mean, all the lights are on Lutron, and so that's already set. All the doors now have sensors, and as you open doors, we hear noises, hear sounds,
right.
And all the blinds are already on Lutron. So Lutron is everywhere already.
Gotcha.
So there'll be lighting built into these shelves everywhere, and those will continue to be, automatable. Because I'd like, gotcha. Depending on the brightness in the room, the light should come on different amounts.
Right. And that's what I was thinking. If you get like track lighting or not track lighting, those lighting strips or what have you in the shelves.
Yeah. And they probably shouldn't be on if nobody is near that in that room or in that hallway. And so automatically turn those off when there's no movement. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's already, some like sensors in that pool room, like for sensing whether there's water in the pool room.
Right.
So because that's pretty important, because there's a lot of electric stuff down there for pumps and
now I'm cheating a little bit, but for some of these sensors, like one of the things that really bothers me is like I need an outlet for a Raspberry Pi in any room, and you can tell that I'm cheating. I'm trying to make a forced segue here into the Pi Sugar, but like one of the things that really bothers me is that I need to have power essentially to run the sensors in the area I'm in. And a lot of the times, the place I really want to measure doesn't have an outlet around it because it's like closer to the window or what have you. And generally, you don't have outlets close to windows, or like by baseboards. I want to know the temperature because baseboard heaters will have a sensor that's like other side of the room on the wall, which is cool, but it doesn't tell me like what's currently happening with the baseboard because it could be on or off. So I saw one of your links in here. The Pi Sugar actually really interested me because it looks like a Raspberry Pi UPS. Did I read this right?
Yeah, I mean it is a daughter board.
He's like literally in his hand. Perfect. You knew I was going.
So yeah, here's the
is it a hat?
Pi Zero.
Yeah.
So this is a Pi Zero on here, and then screwed onto the side on the back of it is a little daughter board that controls the power delivery to the Raspberry Pi, and then this big chunk is just a big battery.
Right.
It's a 1200 milliamp hour.
That's a lot though for a Raspberry Pi. Like a Pi Zero doesn't take a lot of power.
This will power it for like 11 hours.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But that's not why. I mean, I got it so that I have. It turned out well. So I got it thinking it'd be great to have a travel router that has a little bit more power to it than what you can get with a lot of travel routers, and the features that are just right for me.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's hard to go wrong with Linux, right? It's got all the features you want.
But this is the Pi Zero, the original Pi Zero,
right?
So which came out before the 4. It might have been before the 3. I don't know. Around
before
the
wireless, right? I don't. Did it have wireless?
This is a Pi Zero W.
W. Okay.
So gotcha. It is wireless. And so it's a 32-bit processor on here, and really slow. And so I tried loading up. I installed I used Diet Pi as a OS, so it's super lean. And you load up some sort of like WebDAV tool or even just SMB and try to look at the files from iPhone or iPad.
Yeah, I mean, there's network speed is one, and then there's like the power of the device, the processors, and I also noticed the storage speed specifically is really bad on the Pi Zero. Because that in fact, the one I was thinking about is actually a Pi Zero. Then I'm trying to do like airplane monitoring stuff in another area.
So I mean, this is a Pi 4,
right?
And so I just pulled out the card out of the Zero, put it in here, and tried it out. It's like, oh my god, it's like night and day.
It's totally different, even in 32-bit.
Powerful,
way faster. Yeah.
It's amazing. So I have the Pi. So this is the Pi Sugar 3.
Okay.
And then there's a Pi Sugar 3 Plus, which is the size of the full Raspberry Pi.
Gotcha.
And that's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery because it's bigger surface area. And so that's the one I will. I mean, and that is nice because it also has the Ethernet port on it, and full USB. So plug in a external, a drive or anything, and that'll work. But I think the power, for the 5,000 milliamp hour versus the 1,200 on the Zero, you still get about the same amount of hours of power to run this thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, you probably have to disable a core or Bluetooth or something like that to get your power drop a little bit lower. These aren't bad in price, at least in US dollars. It looks like it's about $49, $50.
Yeah,
which isn't bad at all. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, do you remember? I don't actually. This is before you started at Datadog. I did I think where I did that time lapse of the construction of the Boston office.
Yeah, that was before I
had. So that's why I have these Pi Zeros. Is that I bought 10 of them. Actually, I bought probably 12 of them, and then had camera modules on them, and I duct taped them to the walls all around the office for the whole demolition and then rebuild, and then stitched it together to make this time-lapse video. And for that, I used these 10,000 milliamp hour batteries that were plugged into these, but still that would only give me on these, a couple of days of powered on, or 3 or 4 days maybe.
Oh, wow.
And I need to be away from from these devices for 2 weeks because I couldn't keep coming into the building site.
Yeah,
and they were okay with me visiting every.
Right.
They're doing really nasty things, so I had to wear masks, and I don't want to have to go into that space that often.
Right.
And so I ended up buying I think it was another daughter board for these called the Witty Pi. I think it was called. It's from some Czech company. Czech? I don't know. I think it was Czech, or somewhere Eastern Europe, and it was basically a really big capacitor on there and logic to allow it to power down the Pi when it's because the construction workers were there from like 7 a.m. till about 4 p.m. So at 5 o'clock, power it down, and at 6 a.m., power it on, and that way I was able to get about 2 weeks of life, or a little bit longer,
That's pretty good.
for the Pis, and then I could go in every 2 weeks, pull off the cards, grab all the files. I ended up with about 1 terabyte of images over the 6 months.
Yeah,
and then stitch it together to make a video.
That's awesome.
So that's why I have all these little ones. So I've got dozens of them lying around. But it
Gotcha.
turns
Yeah,
out
I'm,
they're
I'm
really
already thinking
useful.
of like our previous conversation. So is there a way to take like a time lapse of the dog to at least tell you like which direction it went? Give me a hint.
Yeah, yeah,
Or which like
yeah,
egress
yeah.
point do I need to work on next in terms of like
Right,
securing my
right.
perimeter?
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
security cams set up as well? Because that's one of the things that we
Oh
really
yeah,
went
there's
a little
there's
bit ham on.
secure there's cameras looking at the house, but they tend to be looking at the house rather than.
As opposed to
I
looking
mean,
at the
I mean,
dog escaping.
I guess the cross traffic, yeah, it probably sees all those edges, but probably not enough detail for a little dog
Yeah.
to really see
It's remarkably
what they're doing.
difficult. Like to get
Yeah,
motion sensing down to something that's small and
yeah,
not large is
yeah,
difficult because a lot of times it's just made like it's contrast detection, so it's hard to
yeah,
actually tell. But we have issues with like we're kind of like a townhouse, so people crossing down the street, it's not really in
mm,
our area, but there's shadow depending on the time of the day. It
yeah,
might be, and it will detect this shadow as movement, and then we'll get a
yeah.
like a motion alert kind of thing.
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah,
And we've tried to train it. We're using like
yeah.
it's Nest. Google Nest has like this whole thing that you can like train it and tell it to like do a certain area, but it just is not great. And I don't know if is it CV computer vision will be any better than that, but I've always wanted to try.
Mhm.
So I've got something
Right,
called the Husky hat, which is like an open CV
right,
hat for Raspberry Pis that can do some of that
right.
intelligence, but I still haven't gone down that path yet. But I do want to know
So
like where is the dog in the house?
yeah, I mean for motion sensing, I don't know if it makes sense to use a camera versus these.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
literally
sure.
they look like a
I mean,
spider's eye. It's just like a little orb basically, and then a contact sensor underneath.
yeah.
Like the multifaceted sensors, is that what you're thinking of?
I guess I have a bunch from Akara that they look like a little cylinder with a smooth piece of plastic around, so it gives
Right,
out like a 120-degree view.
right.
And so we have a bunch of those all around the house, so that when there's movement in the kitchen, lights turn on, and when there's movement in certain hallways, lights come on and go off,
That's a
and
good
they
point. Most
turn
of the
off
time we're not home,
usually at
so
night.
being able to tell between like a person
Yeah,
and a dog isn't that important. Just
yeah,
where is the dog
yeah,
in the home is what we
yeah.
normally want to know. That's a good point.
Right, right. But those Akara sensors, and
Mhm.
what there's other ones out there too, but um, they're great for, like, that's what we have for door sensors, and
Gotcha.
um, the batteries on those things, they last for 2-3 years.
Ah, okay. Yeah, see, that's a big difference, right? When you're doing
Yeah,
OpenCV versus just a small little sensor because they sip
yeah,
power. That's a really good point.
yeah. And
And you don't
they
need the
don't,
battery.
and they're not really listening for activity. It's really good in a sensor where, okay, there's
Mhm.
movement, so turn on the broadcast unit and send out my signal, and then turn
Oh,
off.
gotcha.
And so if
So it's not polling
unless
or
you
anything
press
like that.
unless you press the button that says I'm here, because there's a
Right.
little button that says, announce myself to Zigbee, then it stays quiet
Huh.
until there's movement, and then it says, hey, there's movement. Okay,
That's
close up.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like they maybe thought about this a little bit longer than I did.
Yeah, maybe they thought about it. Yeah.
I do always like finding because there's always different things you can do with a Raspberry Pi that I've
Yeah.
not thought of, and I always like finding these projects because on the weekend I
Yeah.
like tinkering a lot, and Pis are
Right.
great. Like I've got a
Yeah.
few as well, and just loading them up, trying some new software. We were
Yeah.
talking about 32-bit versus 64-bit, that kind of stuff. Turning Bluetooth radios off, trying to figure out
Yeah.
ways of like getting less power and
Yeah.
stuff like that out of them is super enjoyable to me, and I
Yeah.
try to make it like part of my daily life. But like honestly, they're just little Linux boxes around the house. And it's kind of awesome to have a fleet of
It,
sensors that you can log
all
into.
these zeros. I mean, Datadog paid for all of them. So I mean, they were part of my job.
They're not cheap now. Apparently, the supply chain really
Yeah.
affected the Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
Foundation, and it's
Yeah.
still difficult to find them at like a reasonable
Yeah.
price.
So I was thinking, well, let me get the Pi Zero 2 because
Right.
it's so much
Good
more
luck.
powerful.
Yeah.
Um, according to our Pi Locator, the tool to show you that will alert you when there's stock in any
Okay.
of the stores. Um, it'll alert you via Twitter. Okay,
Interesting.
or I think it actually supports Mastodon as well now.
Okay, that's good.
But it will. The last time the RPi the Zero was in stock in the US was, I think, September. And it was at one store in September. And that's the last time, I think, Adafruit. And that's the last time it's been in stock. So
that is rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see in here
that
if
was
you want
just
to get
the
a
zero.
Pi 3. Yeah, if you want a Pi 3A, you can get it, but that's not. You really want the B. Which is
and apparently Adafruit gets like the 3s and 4s every week. So they get a resupply every week, but they disappear within minutes.
Right.
So you have to be ready to go at the time they announce, buy it. But then Adafruit has a limit of 1 Pi.
Right.
Period. And if they see that you're trying to order another one, even 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, they cancel your order.
Right. I mean, the goal of the Pis is for education and stuff like that. So I can understand why they do it.
Yeah.
That's too bad though. Because I think a lot of us.
I just noticed your shirt. I didn't realize.
I was trying to straighten it out.
Yeah, that's great. That is amazing.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you can see it down there. Unknown measures.
That's great. That's not a. Pleasures. I mean, when did you
get? This is official. This is my third, I think, because I just destroy my shirts. But I don't want to like out it, but it was on Cafe Press, I think, is where I got it. So the Joyent store is still on Cafe Press, so you can get mugs and t-shirts. Really? Sometimes those things stick around. I really like the bootleg swag, like the companies that have left that you can still get stuff for. But yeah, I think this is the third iteration of the shirt that I bought from them.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, I like it because people don't notice that it's not a Joy Division shirt. It takes a
minute. Yeah.
Because, and then of course there's like that generation gap. The people who like didn't know Node when it first started and don't understand Joyent or SmartOS or Solaris. But the people who do, it's always a good conversation starter. But yeah, I was working at Samsung when we bought Joyent, which is how I got interested in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after the Node.js Foundation sort of debacle.
Right.
I've been a fan ever since. I think that was 2017. I'll send a link in the chat. It's
okay. Because I will so get that. I've being in tech, I haven't bought many t-shirts.
Right, I know. You really get them for free, right?
Yeah. I bought one t-shirt that you could get on the some YouTuber that's got a daily newsy kind of show. Philip DeFranco had a shirt about the 5 words that Trump said to prove that he was a genius. Person, TV, camera, which you either have no idea what it means or you love the shirt. And I get so many people stopping me saying, I love that shirt. Even now, I mean, years later.
I kind of remember this woman camera something.
Yeah.
Paul, U.S. top politics are they're like a TV show in Canada. Unfortunately, it's like really bad reality.
I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get that, but I'm going to get something else. Hold on a second.
Uh-oh. It's show and tell day at Matt's place. I think we lost him.
One thing that we're going to...
Oh, here we go. He's back.
Coming up, we have got a show. And so we got the first info shirts.
That is really cool. Yeah, we talked about these last time. That's awesome. How's the fabric? How's it feel?
Oh, God, they're perfect.
Yeah.
They are the Datadog shirts. I mean, they are same printer, same...
I will say this shirt is terrible. It's like a Hanes Heavy Tough or something. It's just awful, which is why I've gone through 3 of them. That's good to hear. I like those thin kind of ones that are comfy.
Yeah. So we got the Hanes shirts for DevOps Days Seattle. I mean, we had gotten them at DevOps Days Boston as well. And because they are, when you don't know about getting t-shirts printed, you just go with, find a t-shirt printer and they tell you this is how much the shirts are going to be. And you just assume, well, to go with better quality printing, it's going to cost a lot more.
Right.
And it turns out getting these printed up. So I've asked them about doing the DevOps Days shirts. Mm-hmm. They're going to be less expensive than what we paid for the Hanes shirts.
Interesting.
And they're amazing. And when I mentioned that to the rest of the organizing team, it's like, oh my God, we can have like the Datadog quality shirts with the DevOps Days Seattle logo. That's amazing.
That is pretty cool, though. I think there's a lot to be said of like understanding the market maybe for the shirts, right? Like, and we're talking about free shirts, but like a Hanes shirt is meant more for like a construction undershirt kind of thing. Like that's kind of what I know Hanes to be, and they're great for that. But for like an everyday kind of shirt, they're quite thick, especially if I don't know about you, like get a couple coffees in me and I start sweating a bit, and they just don't. They're not great for that because they're so thick.
Right.
They stay wet for a while, whereas the thinner shirts seem to be they breathe a bit more, you know.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the printing quality, were you able to get like a faded print? Because that looked a little bit weathered instead of being like in your face kind of.
Yeah,
which
so
is nice. It's not white; it's sort of gray, right?
It's not so much because of the color. I mean, I think they print it with a white ink, but because the process is some water-based. I don't know how they do this, but it's a different. It's with a lot of those cheaper shirts, it feels like they just got a decal, they put it on, they got their iron out, and they ironed it on.
Yeah, you basically print on the wax paper and transfer it. Yeah.
And this is not that. This design is going to stay there. It feels like it's part of the shirt.
Oh, that's
just like the Datadog one.
Yeah, that texture. Yeah. We're like t-shirt nerds here, but like I think it's important if you're getting all these shirts from conferences, like other people who will pick up your shirt will do. When they get to yours, they're like, "Oh, this is different." These people understand.
Right. And there's very few shirts that I have in my closet. Like I got one from Gatsby, which is also that similar kind of quality. And the Gatsby one is interesting because it's a black, just slightly off black, but then the logo is black on it, and so it's very. And it's got a little bit of a sheen to the color, so that's really cool.
That is
but
awesome.
most of the other shirts are cheap, and it requires a really cool design on it to make me want to wear it. Like that Joyent division, I think would be awesome.
Yeah, honestly, the quality's terrible. I went for the highest quality one on Cafe Press. Don't do that. It's a Hanes tee. It's super beefy and thick. I think the cheaper one's probably the best. But I do want to ask about sizing, because like a lot of I'm pretty new to DevRel. I mean, it's been 3 years, but COVID's kind of interesting. So prior to that, a lot of my swag experience is internally. So I'd know the sizes of everybody, the mix, genders or whatever like form fit they wanted as well. I could ask beforehand and then order the shirts in, maybe get a couple extras in the popular sizes, that kind of thing. But how do you pick like your sizing? Do you just know from having gone to conferences, like you'll need a certain amount of XLs, a certain amount of ladies fits, or how does that look at unisex? I don't know.
I think like with Datadog, they've done it so often, and the team that puts those shirts together, I mean, I don't know how many, but I assume that Datadog probably prints up 50,000 shirts a year, or somewhere around that. And so there's they're able to play around with the numbers a lot better. And we ordered a batch of 600 shirts, and there you have to really, you think, 600 shirts. We're never going to go through all those. But then you think, well, how many of those?
There's at least three sizes that are going to
those 3XL?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't think of myself as huge, but turns out I am, and I need that 3XL in order to be comfortable.
And then there's sizing up and sizing down, because different t-shirts will have different sizes. They'll fit differently on the shoulder or the arm.
The Datadog and Infra shirts, they are, in every other shirt I might be a 1XL or 2XL, but in Datadog I'm a 3XL.
Right. Yeah, I do find they fit a little bit small.
Yeah. And so I ended up asking the company, well, we're going to order 600, 500. They said, well, here's the breakdown you should do. And then when I saw there's only, for that breakdown, there's only 2 3XLs, and I'm planning on taking a few to
Right.
Fill out my wardrobe. So I'm not wearing Datadog all the time like I am today.
Of course. The undershirt, of course. It is important though, because like at conferences, the most I've been asked is actually about 3XLs. They'll go around the show floor and like no one will have any, so they'll come to us and they'll say, you have any in your luggage at the hotel or whatever. They're trying to bargain or something. So I've got a 3XL that I try to bring with me because people do ask for it, just so I can give it away. But I try to have like a spare if I'm going to a conference because I know that it's not that common and the people you want it.
So I ended up basically adding 100 shirts, so a batch of 600, so that I could have a bunch of 3XLs and a few more 2XLs and XLs and larges to fill out that range. And I'm sure we'll end up with way too many mediums and way too. I don't know. I mean, you never know.
Like
and
larges and mediums seem to go pretty quickly for us. This is just based on my booth experience. But there are people who go around asking for smalls as well. Like because there's people like I don't know what it is. It feels like as we get older, we tend to like gain a little bit more weight. But the people who were asking for the smalls felt like they were like fresh out of school, basically. So the people who are newer to the industry. And I do want to welcome everybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, plenty of people that would sit through the demo. They'd say, well, I already have a whole bunch of shirts, but my wife has really been asking me for this shirt. Or my daughter, my son.
Isn't that awesome? Like they really like your shirt. They like the logo. They want to wear it.
Yeah. I remember that. So there'd always be a bunch of shirts left over, but you never know who's gonna this is our first. Yeah, this is our first booth we've ever had anywhere. So is anybody going to want a shirt at all? I don't know.
Maybe not. Yeah. Sometimes you'll find people who like legitimately haven't heard of you before, and they just want to come by and grab a free T-shirt. And like you think this is like it's like don't give a T-shirt to these people, but honestly, if you got them for like at least a minute or two, you can quickly explain like who you are or what you do, and it actually works. And I realize like the cost of acquisition for a client seems high in printing a shirt. But often, like at early stage, what you're trying to do is actually just to get them to know who you are and what you do. It seems very simple, but it's actually critical. Like here for DevOps Days, for example, the smalls seem to go really quickly. So it seems to honestly depend on like the market you're in. The last event I was at was in Portland. It was totally skewed the other way. So the XLs and the 2XLs were more common. It seems to depend on the attendance. Well, I mean, worst case scenario, you can always order more, right?
And another option that this company gave us is, well, if you don't want to, because we were, what do we do for KubeCon in Amsterdam coming up in April or May? Do we bring? I mean, I'm 7 boxes of shirts are going to show up at my doorstep tomorrow, I think. Do I want to take 7 boxes of T-shirts? I don't think so.
Can you drop ship or anything?
We can probably ship them to, but then, I mean, with the Amsterdam location, you're dealing with that conference center. And okay, sure, we can accept boxes. Every box that we accept is 150 euros.
Right.
Okay, let's make sure our boxes are enormous. Or you can ship it to your hotel.
And then you get to the conference,
Right. But also, you need to make sure that, international shipping, it's kind of, it's, if you ship it on this day, it's going to arrive that day, maybe. And it might show up a week later. And now your box of shirts has arrived in Amsterdam a week after the show's over. I mean, even with Datadog, for, I think it might have been for not reInvent, but for one of the other AWS shows, the other summits. They, even the trucking company that delivers the booths, the truck that had the Datadog booth and the AWS booth didn't show up.
Whoa!
And it didn't show up until the second day of the show.
Whoa!
And so I mean, Datadog ended up building a brand new booth in 6 hours and printing up graphics and all that. And so we're able to deal with it. But even at the top level, stuff just doesn't show up sometimes because there's a tornado or there's a, things happen.
Yeah, what's that old term? Like you have to own your uptime. So that means you Matt, are carting along all the shirts with you. In your carry-on, you've got some as well.
Right. And then, I mean, with shirts or you have that TV that's behind the table. Well, do you rent it from the conference center for $600 a day or whatever it's going to be?
Yeah.
Or do you buy one there and then give it away as the giveaway to somebody, but who wants to take away a TV? Right. I mean, that some people do, but a lot of people don't.
I've heard of that happening. People will go to like a Best Buy and then just buy a TV and take it to the.
That's what we always did.
Like,
when
what
Elon,
do we do with the TV? Really?
Yeah, Elon would always, buy a TV and then it either go to somebody who come by the booth would just say, "You want a TV?" or if there was somebody, located in that, an employee located in that city, it's like, well, great. Do you want to take the TV home with you? Like, sure.
Yeah, the more I do the conference stuff, the more I'm learning like the dirty secrets of actually running the booth. Because as a conference attendee, it's just swag central, right? You go in, you pick up the squeeze balls or the pens or the bouncy balls, the lights in them, maybe a USB stick or some sort of thing like that. But you don't think about all of the steps that go into it. And I know we're trying to get into an era where we're making less swag and making it useful, that kind of stuff, maybe a little bit more thoughtful and not wasteful, but still a lot of that sort of pre-work involved was just unknown to me. I just thought maybe the conference did it for you while they were making the conference. It's just like you don't really think about actually
a lot of stuff the conference can do for you, but they'll charge you a lot for it.
Of course, arm and leg.
Yeah. Especially if it's a place where the unions are involved, it gets more expensive, and it's
it's not a racket, but there's certainly money involved. But man, listen, we had a bunch of recommendations. I don't have too much in terms of like stuff to recommend, but I did want to put it out there because I've always got this question. But like, I got another one of these sort of iPhone holder things, which is all right from Ugreen. But if anyone has any recommendations for these, I'm always on the lookout for more. I feel like I use them all the time.
Like just a stand on your desk?
You got it. Yeah, just to have the phone's like on a stand or the iPad stand or something like that. The reason I like this one is because it folds flat, so I can take it traveling.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I miss when I travel is like the phone's on the table. And it shouldn't be a big deal, but like I do actually use my phone quite a bit when I'm on the computer. And it's important to me.
Yeah, I have one that looks very similar to that, but for an iPad. And it's actually got the cable connection, and you could turn it. It goes from portrait to landscape.
That's really handy.
It's for I have it from like a second generation original iPad.
Oh wow, so it's pretty old. Okay, whatever. It might also be set to handle a lot of weight too, because they were pretty heavy back then.
Yeah, and it is a really heavy duty thing.
Nice.
Anywhere near here, but for desktop stands, I don't. I mean, this is the first time I've had a MagSafe phone, so it's like I should probably.
So I looked at those. Yeah, they're pretty pricey.
Yeah,
like surprisingly so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had in terms of recommendations. Just maybe.
So I got three.
I
got 3 or 4 recommendations that I. So first off is, let me make sure I have the address of this place right. Neva.
High sugar.
Yeah, Neva.com.
Oh right, okay, that browser, the new search engine.
Search engine, and so it's ad free, and so you think, well, if it's ad free, how are they supporting themselves? Well, you get a subscription to it, and so you're paying. So I paid for a year of using a search engine, which is bizarre to do. But now when I look at when I do a search in Neva, I see, I actually see all the, like, it's indexing not only the web, but it's indexing my mail and some other stuff. So I can see like my calendar.
Like Google Desktop kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and as well as I have packages that show up in my email, because UPS sent me a
Right.
notification. It
Yeah.
picks that up and it says it's arriving on this day.
Right.
And if I do a search and it finds a relevant search in my email, it'll show that as well. And it also does if you do a search for show me how to, or how do I don't know, install MB Media Center
Yep.
on a Raspberry Pi, it'll take the two or three top results and kind of use an AI kind of thing to come up with a description of here's how to do it based on these three articles that are very different, but here's how we've kind of figured out you should do it.
That's pretty cool. Okay,
That's
that's the next level kind of thing, because that's pretty
yeah,
common actually.
yeah,
Is like you'll find three different guides that go about something completely different, especially for MB. That's a perfect
yeah.
example.
And then for if you do a search and the results are like from Stack Overflow or one of these, it will show you the page from Stack Overflow formatted nicely, but within the results in Neva.
I
So
can
you're
see
not
Stack
bouncing
Overflow not
out
liking
these
this, but I do like it because I
probably.
do find Stack
But
Overflow,
then
especially when
another
you're in the
thing,
different sites, it looks different, right? Which throws me off.
right? So then you can also, if there are certain sites that you don't want to see, like the scammy W3 schools, you can
Right.
say ignore all results from W3 schools.
Right.
And then
Listen,
for
I think they had the
news,
best intentions, but what it is today is not the same as.
if I do a search for what is, I don't know, pick random senator or random, any politics, or talk about do a search for what's going on in California
Right.
around, the shootings in California.
Right.
You can bring up that search. It shows all the news sources, but then at the top, there's a slider that lets you slide from left to right. So left-leaning sites and right-leaning sites. And how do
Interesting.
they report the news differently? The same story, but from a different angle.
You're right. Right.
So that's really cool.
I feel like as a Canadian that we need like a far. Is there a further left? Like off the scale.
Yeah, I don't. So I don't know how much I paid for it. I think it was like, I guess it's $50 a year.
Okay.
So it's $5 a month or $50 a year.
And there is a free plan too. I'm looking at the.
And there's a free plan, yeah.
Yeah, that's not awful. I think the main
Looks like
thing
I'm
is
still in
that
the
like
trial.
if you're not paying for something, it's the old adage, right? If you're not paying for it,
Yeah.
you're the product.
You're the
And
customer.
it sounds like this at least is
Or you're
going around
the product.
Yeah, they're selling your data. It might be an aggregate and stuff like that. Like I understand how that portion works, but at some point in time in your life, you're like, yeah, how about I don't though? What if there was an option to not do this? Yeah, I've been using DuckDuckGo for the last year and a half, and it's got its pros and cons. Google search, I'm sure, like most people will say, it's become less useful over time.
Right.
You can sort of see it evolve but devolve, and also these people trying to game the system, so it's tougher. Same thing, unfortunately, applies to DuckDuckGo. I think Bing, as much as we laugh at it, is not bad, but it's got different problems in terms of quality, like where the results are. So I'm always on the lookout for another search engine.
Right.
So I'll definitely check this out.
So I've got another thing.
All right.
Let's go to. Let's see if this works. Okay, cool. So my desk is an absolute mess at the moment, but you can see there's what my desk looks like right now.
Yeah, a lot going on.
So there's a whole bunch of junk. There's a lot of Raspberry Pis and other Raspberry Pis and other Raspberry Pis and there's probably some other Raspberry Pis elsewhere. But anyway, on this desk, attached to the desk, I've got over there a microphone. Over here, a microphone. Right. Over here, a light. One of these Elgato lights. Over here, another Elgato light. On the desk, I've also got these monitors, these audio monitors,
right
there, and and a bunch of like stuff, just stuff. And
there's a lot of stuff.
And so there's a lot of stuff. So let's go back to there we go. So I would, and actually the camera. When I was moving around, there was also up above the monitors, there was another monitor, which was actually a teleprompter, which has a camera behind it, and that's actually what I'm talking to. And I have the teleprompter for this just so that I'm looking at the screen from StreamYard, so I can see you on it. And that camera is mounted on a tripod that is standing behind the desk, and the tripod at the top takes up this much space. The tripod at the bottom takes up, it's like 4 feet across or 3 feet across. It's a big amount of space, and so the whole table I have to move back, from the wall by about 2 or 3 feet. So I lose 2 feet in this space that's only 13 feet deep. So I lose a significant portion to handle this tripod. So I saw this thing from Falcam. So Falcam, I don't know if you know them.
No, I've never heard of them.
They've got a whole bunch of the quick release on the camera and the teleprompter are sitting on is actually a quick release from Falcam. And what's really nice, is it from Falcam? I think it's from Falcam. Oh, it's one of these other quick release manufacturers, and it's a really nice one where it kind of turns and it pops off really easily.
Oh, nice.
And it works really well for this. But Falcam has a bunch of other quick releases, and they also have this thing called the Gear Tree. Now, I've seen a few videos about the Gear Tree from like a year ago or 2 years ago by Potato Jet and a bunch of others that did.
I think I've seen that one. Yeah, I like Potato.
And then Caleb for Video Shooter, DSLR Video Shooter did one about a stand, like a C stand that he built himself, kind of based on the.
That's sort of the system I'm doing now. Is I've got a C stand with everything attached to it. Yeah.
And I've got that sitting out in the garage right now.
Okay.
But this gear stand or Gear Tree is one that can either mount to the table, or one that has it's like a Varipole where it extends and sticks, and through pressure against the floor and ceiling stays put. And so it's just this vertical rod, but then it's also got all these attachments. So there's attachments for heavy things like lights and other things like that, cameras. There's attachments for lighter things like microphones, and they're all attached to that one thing that is all the way back, basically almost against the wall.
Right.
But then can come forward, right? I mean, right now, the camera is mounted on this tripod. In order to get to the tripod, I have to move the desk all the way down.
I'm the same way.
Kneel on the desk and reach over, precariously pull it off. But with this Gear Tree, I'll have it on I don't have it. Haven't bought it yet, but I'll have on these these extender arms, so it can kind of come over here, and I can
that's
do
pretty
it.
Handy. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Unassemble or reassemble or right here. Like I want to reset the color balance or the white balance on the camera, but I haven't done it for so long, and I have to redo it, with a white card and right here, because I can't get over to the camera and I don't want to pull it off because it's such a pain to get to. And so
this is how you sell things to people, right? It's either pursuance of pleasure or avoidance of pain. And this is definitely like the avoidance of pain.
Right. Now, unfortunately, in order to build out the system that I would need, they have like a starter system and then what I'd actually use. It's what you doing? Okay. It would be, you're looking at like $1,200. So It's not cheap.
Okay, I'm over here with like an Amazon C stand that was, I think, $120, and it sort of does a lot.
Yeah, so that's one of those things I'm thinking about but I need to.
Grip is hard. I will say, like, this is one of those paths that you can just go down, like a lifelong thing. I look at grip all the time. When I say grip, I mean like the things that hold things, the grip. And I ended up just picking stuff that I could also use in the studio, But if you're not, if you don't need to ever go to the studio, like there's no reason to get a C stand, because the C stand is possibly one of the worst stands you can buy. That is like perfect for the studio, but it's otherwise it's just not great. It's ungainly. It's a pain to use. It's actually quite heavy as well. And it's really like inflexible in terms of what you can do with an actual normal C stand.
Inflexible, and also that the connection to the base is often not totally solid. It's
depending on who you're going with. Yeah, so I've had a Kupo stand, KUPO, which is pretty good, doesn't wobble. I've also had an Avenger stand, which is awful, and then I've got the Neewer one, which has a lot of play on the bottom. It's actually annoying.
I mean, so all the C stands I have are old Kupo, and even the Kupos wobble a bit.
Yeah,
it's like, which is why I'm not using a C stand on this, because it wobbles.
Yeah, because your camera will wobble, your mic will wobble, and then you get handling noise.
Yeah.
All right.
So
good recommendation.
My only other thought was if we were running out, or I ran out of things before the end of the session, but that didn't happen.
Just need to ask Matt about his house.
I discovered, or I saw somebody talk about Obscura as an iPhone camera app.
Okay.
Which seems pretty cool, and so I've used a whole bunch of camera apps, and that's the one.
Very cool. The one I use is Filmic, which looks similar to this, but I think Filmic is specifically for video. This looks like you can also do photos. This looks awesome, actually. I have so many different camera apps.
Yeah, I had Filmic, and I thought I had like the version that had all the things, and then I went into it pretty recently and says, "Oh, time to pay up again."
Interesting.
Well, I thought I had it.
Maybe I should check. I thought I had it too. I use it on the gimbal a lot, just to set the aperture low and then the ISO to not be variable, and then I get like pretty impressive gimbal shots. But it's I don't know. It's like a niche need.
I think in a previous call we talked about I just gotten the iPhone 14, but I hadn't really used the camera much.
Right.
I've been using the camera a lot more, and it's amazing.
It's pretty nice. I know people say like that's the only thing that they didn't like about it. It feels like a step backwards, but I don't see it. It's awesome for me. I love the
I had to do a whole bunch of pictures for one of my aunts in England. My dad, because she wanted copies of photos. So I was just making copies of a photo, and they came out really good. I mean, because of the 48 megapixel resolution.
You use that middle lens or whatever it is, right?
I got really great shots of these. My dad grew up in Nigeria, and so these photos of his dad's place or his family's place in Nigeria, nice. It turned out, it's like, wow, this is a whole lot better than I expected.
It is a little bit harder to justify the purchase of a scanner if you're not doing like medium format scans all the time. Like it's a little bit difficult at this point in time. You can even get negative holders for phones that will do all of the correction and dust removal for you. It's just like it's pretty surprising. You need a light source. It'll often come with like a light underneath, but it's impressive. The camera lenses and sensors are a lot better than they used to be.
I mean, I have in the garage, I have a Nikon Coolscan 8000.
Nice.
I haven't powered it on. The last time I powered it on,
probably FireWire or something.
It's FireWire 800. I had to power it on and I saw that it was broken. Got it repaired for, I don't know, because the power supply had broken on it.
Wow.
And because FireWire, if you had it the wrong way around, it blew out the device. And that was like a €500 repair. And turned out what I needed it for went away, and I haven't touched it since. And it turns out it's nowhere near as good a scan as, I mean, even though I think it's still a current model, but it's 15 years old.
Yeah, I don't think they make them anymore, but they are still. I think Nikon had digital ice, I think, is what people still like.
Yeah.
But even the software for it, like you can run Windows XP, but like it's like getting FireWire on Windows XP running, like it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I think we covered a lot. This is one of our longer episodes. Look at us go.
I think we went way over another time too.
All right.
Hey, I was thinking about changing up a little something about how we get ready. Right now we one of us comes up with a list 20 minutes before the call.
This one was pretty good. We had multiple hours of preparation today.
Yeah. I was wondering if it makes more sense to have like an out. How at
like an abstract.
Well, I don't know about abstract, but
Outline?
like on the evangelism team, we had that running doc, and we also do this with DevOps days and with other orgs I've been at, where whatever we're working on, the current meeting is the top one, and then the next current one is top of that. Almost like a place to throw all our ideas.
I like it.
Because sometimes, we didn't cover two of the things that I put on. I know
we've got topics for next week,
which will be topics for next time. But every time, and we've had that in the past, and we never get to those topics. And so it would be nice because I think some of those are probably interesting topics.
No, just put those in the backlog and never revisit the backlog. Isn't this the agile way of
like Sweet Green? I don't know what your excitement about Sweet Green was, but
well, there we go. This is a good topic for next time. Okay, I like it. Yeah, so Google Doc, and then we can at least
Google Doc, or whether it's Google Doc or I don't know, Trello, or I don't know. That's going a little bit far.
Yeah. I'm down for whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. And broadcast now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll quick
find the button.